Usually, when we think about self care, we usually think about bubble baths and expensive spa days. But honestly, some of the best self care and productivity habits cost nothing at all, like literally $0. Over time, I found that the smallest changes, things that don't require that much extra time and money, have really made the biggest impact in how I feel and how I work. So, today I'll be sharing some of my favorite low cost self care and productivity habits that genuinely make me feel happier and that I do on a regular basis. Hello, lovely people. If this is your first time here, my name is Amira, and on this channel, we talk about mindful productivity, self-care, and soft systems that help you support building an intentional life. This video is all about those small but mighty effective habits that help me stay focused and more at peace without having to spend extra money or add more to my to-do list. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first low-cost productivity habit you've probably all heard of, it's the walking treadmill / desk combo. Now, this really has been a game changer in terms of how it's leveled up my productivity during my work days. Hello, editing Amira from my editing cave. I just want to note that I do understand how this first one can be misleading. I just wanted to give a disclaimer that the initial investment can indeed be a little pricey depending on what kind of desk and treadmill that you decide to get, but after that initial investment, it's literally free. And in my experience, getting a good quality desk and treadmill has paid for itself many times over. And also there's definitely a vast price range for desks and treadmills. I just wanted to note that. And then everything in this video is pretty much low cost and or free, so keep watching. So the majority of my days I am working from home. I found that before this setup, when I just had my regular desk, I was so focused during my days on getting this work done that oftentimes I would neglect my movement and or have to really relegate my movement sessions to either early morning or late evening, which sometimes didn't work for me. So I really found that the combination of the standing desk and the treadmill really allows me to get another movement session in for the day. And we all know how important walking is for our cardiovascular health, right? So my current workout routine right now is in the morning, I'll typically take it slow. Often I'm more interested in having a slow morning to ease into my day, maybe some gentle stretching, yoga, etc. During lunchtime, I will typically get in a Pilates session, whether that's a more high impact advanced workout or whatever my body needs that day. That typically coincides with where I am on my cycle. I'll then make a quick little smoothie, quick snack, and then come back to my desk to continue work for the second half of the day. But now I'm able to bust out my walking pad, elevate my desk, and then get a walking session in. I can hit my 10K steps a day while still getting work done. And the biggest thing I've noticed is that particularly after that lunchtime, when I'm refueled and I have my walking pad out, I'm really able to focus. The act of walking for some reason really gives me a big productivity boost. So I will save it for tasks that can often benefit from that productivity boost, such as drafting emails, writing and reviewing reports. My standing desk was an investment, right? But I definitely think that the investment was necessary and I don't regret saving up for my desk. It's just so versatile and I'm really able to prioritize my health in a way that I didn't before as I was working from home most days. The second productivity habit I picked up also from working my corporate job, it is batching small tasks in order to avoid task switching. I don't know about you, but I think for me, I remember as a kid in high school, college, I used to be really able to laser focus, being able to sit down and commit to studying for long periods of time. As an adult these days, I feel like I have TikTok brain, right? I feel like our parents were right. It really do be that dang phone. I think somewhere along the way, my ability to like really focus in on one task has decreased. And so oftentimes, whether in my personal work or my 9-to-5 work, I found myself really task switching a lot, which really is a productivity killer, honestly, because when you're bouncing from task to task, right, obviously it takes you so much longer to complete all the tasks on your docket. Whereas if you would have just zeroed in on one task at a time, it might feel like it's taking a longer time to complete, but you realize that you're able to do so much deeper and meaningful work and low-key complete those tasks faster than you would have just bouncing back and forth from task to task. Now I've learned to just batch similar tasks together. So I set aside dedicated blocks of time within my calendar to only answer emails, only write, only do specific assignments, only do deep work. I feel like having those time blocks and then putting specific tasks and also similar tasks, right, within that time block really helps prioritize your work and get your work done in a more efficient way. I feel like it really helps you have like different mental zones zones. You have a different mental capacity for each type of task. Maybe one day or one portion of your day, you're in deep work, researching mode. The other portion of the day, you can be a little bit brain off, just answering basic emails or whatnot. So you don't have to keep switching between those modes constantly. It's honestly not productive. And this can go not only for your work, but for your life as well. Oftentimes I will implement like habit stacking, for example, where similar things will go in a specific time block, and the types of activities and habits that I complete within a particular time block is different from those that I put in different time blocks throughout my day. For example, habits that I put in my morning routine, different than those habits that I put in my evening routine or my weekend routine. I also have a few videos on my channel where I talk about this in detail and how I use certain platforms like Google Calendar and Notion to kind of organize my days and my weeks and habit stack and time block. So I will leave those down below if you're interested. The third productivity habit I recommend is implementing soft deadlines for personal tasks. Some tasks honestly never feel urgent and they just really sit on my to-do list forever and ever, collecting dust, staring me in the face. For example, in my Notion weekly task manager, I have a property in that manager that relegates a task to high priority, low priority, or might do someday. And honestly, even after those high priority and low priority tasks are completed, those might do someday tasks really just stay in there collecting dust. So now I kind of give them fake deadlines. So for example, if I need to reorganize my Notion or reorganizing my files, doing a digital declutter, I give that a due date just like I would for work. And oftentimes I might use y'all for a little bit of accountability, right? So maybe I'll make a video around it. So for example, my mid-year reset, right? I was like, okay, I need to do this digital declutter, particularly before the second half of the year rolls around and I'm bombarded with more things. And so doing that with y'all, putting a deadline around that was really helpful. Sometimes I feel like if we leave things just open-ended, we oftentimes push it off, you know, good old procrastination. But I feel like setting a deadline almost puts that external pressure on the task. So it's like tricking my brain into viewing this as a real priority rather than an I'll do it later situation. Within my planning system, I have a master task list that feeds all the tasks into my weekly planner and then my yearly planner, etc. I have a few videos on here in which I go through that system, but essentially I use it to set priority levels and due dates for certain tasks that are usually associated with an overarching action plan for the month and then that overarching goal for the quarter. So in my master task list, I can typically set high priority, low priority. I can give myself an idea of what the demand looks like. Is it high energy? Is it a low energy task? And then from there, I can set a little flexible due date that keeps me accountable without stressing me out. I did a life admin day that was part of my mid-year reset that I did recently. And I actually really liked that part of the reset. I paired my life admin day with a little like cozy hobby reset time. So if a task is really lingering, I recommend using a little mini reward to motivate yourself to do that task, right? In my instance, in that life admin day, I did end up completing a host of tasks that were looming and I got to play around with a little watercolor, which I was really excited about, and just chill and watch some vlogs. So feel free to pair that task once you complete it with going to see a movie, maybe picking up your favorite book, doing a little creative hobby, anything that you use to kind of slow down after completing your day of procrastinated tasks. Okay, so now we're gonna get into more of the self-care habits. So first one I have is speaking to yourself positively out loud. Now, I know this seems simple, I know this seems obvious, but honestly, it really isn't. Really speaking for myself, but I know some of you can relate. We oftentimes resort to more negative self-talk, right? That really harsh inner critic rather than positive self-talk. This is something I've learned and implemented over time through things like gratitude journaling, for example, affirmations, and it really has made an impact on my mental state as I progressed through my 20s. So I thought I'd just share it with you all just as a little reminder. And I think the important part here is really verbalizing right out loud, physically into the ether, the verbal affirmations and self-encouragement rather than just like thinking them or writing them down. I think there's just so much power, as they say, in the tongue, in words, and the act of you not only forming the thought, but speaking the thought and then hearing that back, I think is so powerful. Actually, a while ago, I saw this creator, I think her name is Courtney. Maybe I can link the video or put it up here. I came across one of her videos on my For You page, and she basically said that her go-to affirmation at the time was, "My name is Courtney and only good things happen to me."
So I manifested my dream life, and something that really helped me along this journey was a tip I learned about on TikTok from this woman who's a business coach. I don't know, but she said that she had this single mantra that she repeated throughout her day, which is, "My name is blank and only good things happen to me." I started doing this, mind blown.
And I was like, okay, like cute. But I was like, okay, like I have nothing to lose in trying this. I've already been doing my little affirmations daily that I write down in my journal once I get up in the morning. But let me just, try a little verbal affirmation. It can't hurt. Perhaps this would have happened anyway, but literally the same morning as I said this at the breakfast table, I got an email later that day with some really good news. So while this could have totally been coincidental, I feel like the premise is still there. So like I said, I do my yearly vision boards. Some folks do quarterly vision boards. I also do my affirmations and my journaling in the morning, but I also think speaking affirmations is powerful because you get that feedback and it's almost tricking your brain, right? Really ingraining it into your self-conscious. My name is Amira and only good things happen to me. And so now when I'm really feeling anxious or I need a confidence boost, I really have just learned to go back to that frame of mind. And as a follow-up to speaking kindly to yourself out loud, I just mentioned it in that last point. I really am so glad that I started my journey with journaling, particularly gratitude journaling in the morning and an evening reflection, right? Using that reflection to bookend my day. I do have 1 or 2 journaling videos on here and I can link those as well, but I personally have enjoyed taking a moment of each day. Really, it takes me like 3 minutes, right? If I'm really running low on time and I don't have this large swath of time to just write, even taking out that couple minutes just to kind of think about what I'm grateful for, reflect on that, meditate on that, and then the same thing in the afternoon, just to get those thoughts out of my brain before I wind down. Honestly, it's just made such a huge impact on my daily life. So oftentimes I'll write out what I'm grateful for, what I'm looking forward to the next day, what the best part of my day was, or even if it wasn't that great of a day, right? Just giving myself room and space to reflect on that and not even feel bad about it. Honestly, it's done wonders for my overall mood and like satisfaction with my life. I've told folks in my life, like my fiance and my sister, for example, that it might feel like such a small and simple thing. As someone who has dealt with anxiety and periods of depression in the past, I feel like just the seemingly small, simple thing is almost like programming or reprogramming my brain to automatically search for the good, right? Those good moments in my life. So even if things are looking a little bleak, a little dreary, or just I'm going through a tough time, right? I'm like, okay, well, here's the good in this, right? Even though this thing isn't going my way right now, there could be a larger purpose. I always try to fixate on the good that I can find in the situation rather than just hyper fixating on the negative and ruminating on that. And I really think as a type A, someone who is used to wanting control in all of those situations, as they say, the only constant in life is change and you can only control yourself and your actions, literally nothing else. So I think this exercise has really helped me in terms of learning to work that positivity muscle and then relinquish control over the things that I can't control in my life, which is literally everything but myself. And a mantra that has really stuck with me that I've shared with others, and I also keep repeating to myself because I need that, is that everything is figure outable, right? I'm good, I'm safe, I'm secure, I'm blessed that that is my reality because it's not the reality for many other people in parts of the world or even this country. So yeah, just knowing that everything really is figure outable and nothing is as dire as it seems. So these reflections have been a very simple but very profound part of my life. The next self-care habit I have is also pretty simple but very powerful. It's making a warm drink in the morning while you do your intention setting along with it. I think this is a very cultural thing for the most part. I think many cultures adapt the practice of you wake up and you reach for typically something like a warm tea to kickstart your system. Likewise, part of my ideal morning routine is making a warm tea. Oftentimes it's matcha, and then setting an intention alongside that. As we all know, because matcha is very popular now, so much so that there is a shortage of it, we all know that the act of making a warm, authentic matcha is the act of whisking, right? And that takes a couple minutes. So while you're literally doing nothing else, it is a good time to check in with yourself, right? So I like to do like a body scan, like how am I feeling today? Any aches and pains in my body? Do I have mental clarity for the day? Am I feeling a little off? Maybe that has something to do with where I am at in my cycle that month. And then I also ask myself questions like, how do I want to feel ideally for the day? What steps can I take to achieve that feeling? What do I want to keep in mind? So I think it's a really simple and powerful way to center myself and bring in that clarity before just jumping into my day and all the chaos that it brings. The next self-care recommendation I have is making mealtimes a meaningful, mindful ritual. So I've officially made it my mission just to be more mindful about the scrolling while I'm eating. I used to always use mealtimes as an opportunity to scroll and catch up on social media, and honestly sometimes I still do, but I've become a lot more mindful of that, and more often I just sit and enjoy my food. It does seem like a foreign concept these days to just sit in silence, staring, contemplating, not having any stimulation, especially coming from a place where I'm pretty overstimulated at every part of my day. So I think subconsciously it feels like, wow, like I don't know if I'll be able to sit for like 20 minutes or so and literally do nothing. But then perhaps bringing a book with me is the next best step, typically because I feel like it's hard for me to squeeze in meaningful reading time throughout the day unless it's right before I go to bed. So honestly, meal times are the perfect time to squeeze in a little bit of cozy fiction. But yeah, whether it's silence or a meaningful conversation with my partner or getting lost in a book for a few minutes, I feel like that's just a better use of my time, calms my nervous system down a little bit while I'm eating, aiding in that digestion and so forth, rather than just kind of doom scrolling on TikTok and Instagram. Oftentimes that leaves me feeling more frazzled after I eat than the feeling of nourishment and being fed that you're supposed to leave with after you eat a nice meal. So that's something I've really been working on, and I found it helpful thus far. The next self-care recommendation I have, believe it or not, is also quite simple, but we also often forget. It is incorporating more micro luxuries into your everyday routine. Look, we are busting out the good stuff, honey. So no more waiting for that special occasion to use your fancy bottled lotions and creams and butters or perfumes, waiting to burn that bougie candle that you got, or drink tea from that good mug. We are doing that on the daily basis, incorporating those little micro luxuries into our lives because we deserve. I used to catch myself buying these fancy little creams and oils and butters from Sephora and then waiting for that special occasion, a date night or a special event, to use it, and then saving my more so regular like drugstore lotions and creams on a daily basis. And honestly, they work just as well, if not better. Or even apart from that, right? If you have a really nice blouse that you bought or just something else that you care about, not waiting for those special occasions or special moments to come around, especially because I am like a self-care girly. I still love to do my physical self-care. So not waiting to use my expensive skincare for better days, because every day is a good day to take care of yourself. Am I right? So I've learned that incorporating those little luxuries, little treats, if you will, make my day a little bit more enjoyable and intentional. The next recommendation I have is actually a productivity recommendation. It is using a physical timer instead of my phone as a timer while I'm working. I'm sure you can relate, right? My phone is literally the number one distraction when I'm trying to focus. So I'm trying to find every excuse I can not to pick up my phone. And one of the things I do like to do is some version of the Pomodoro technique, right? But rather, instead of using my phone, because all phones really these days have a timer on them, I have invested in this little kitchen timer. It's really cute. I got it from Amazon and it looks like this. It's a little rotary and you can dial in the minutes, and it does go up to 99 minutes before resetting, which I think is pretty good for all of my tasks that I do during my workday. I've already gotten some good use out of this little guy. I have a few videos on here already where I do use this to help make it a little time challenge. It makes my tasks and deep work sessions feel like a little game. So setting a cute timer and seeing if I can beat the clock actually helps me get so much more work done. The next productivity recommendation I have is utilizing what I call an input cap. And really that's just limiting how much I consume before I start creating and putting those creations out into the world. I've noticed that when I pick up my phone and start scrolling first thing in the morning, my brain is just filled with so many things, so much much information coming through all at once, so many of other people's ideas before I even start my day. So now before I check emails, and that is such a big thing for me, really is the checking of the emails, or scroll or watch anything, I try to create something, right? Even if it's just a short note, jotting down just a few thoughts. And that honestly just helps me set the tone and start my day with a little bit more intention, help me feel a little bit more grounded. And this even extends to how I think about consumption in general these days. As you can see, the common thread in this video is really consumption and being mindful of that. So rather than consuming social media content that doesn't necessarily uplift me, or buying things I don't need, or YouTube, for example, I do consume a lot of YouTube. I'm thinking, how can I balance this, right? I do enjoy consuming content that is aligned with who I am, right? I do have my favorite content creators, I have my favorite shows, but I also like to think about how can I put my creations out into the world as well to balance that with what I consume. My own content creation, for example, things like this, or partaking in some creative hobbies that make me feel good, that might not necessarily be for consumption by others or monetization, but are still being taken from here onto paper, out into the world. So essentially nowadays, rather than just having the focus solely be on consuming content, I'm really being more cognizant of bringing my own ideas and creations to life, whether it is monetizable or fits this society's ideas of what productivity means. And this segues perfectly into my next point, which is embracing more creative hobbies. I talked about this in one of my recent mid-year reset videos, but one of my goals for this year was embracing and carving time out for myself to do more creative hobbies, and particularly those that I know I used to enjoy in the past, right? Maybe as an adolescent or early adulthood. So these include things like painting. I really do enjoy painting. A few years ago, around the pandemic, that time I got into acrylic painting on canvases and wasn't too shabby. I also, as a teenager, was really into music. So I was in band, I played a few instruments. So still have that muscle, but I'd like to exercise that muscle a little bit more, right? Sharpen those skills. And also I really enjoyed creative writing as a kid. I think it's important for so many reasons. So not only does it give you a chance to explore your inner child, but also helps you, slow down and find more gentle joys, those small joys that make life just a little bit more meaningful, a little bit more enjoyable without the pressure to perform or achieve. There's nothing wrong with a little dilly-dally, a little whimsy, okay? We all need that, especially as adults, especially with all the craziness going on, in the country, in the world. So as I said, I made this goal last December for this year, and I was really slacking on it up until my mid-year reset that I did just a few videos ago. I think I was filming the goals reset, and as soon as I turned that camera off, I decided just to bite the bullet and go online and just order some watercolor supplies. After we did our life admin day together, we relaxed and we were able to unwind with a little watercoloring session, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I also had a few solo sessions by myself where I was just able to throw on a vlog or an audiobook or a podcast while watercoloring. And yeah, honestly, I think those moments where I can really just turn my brain off and not feel pressure to be perfect in my creation and just enjoy the process of being creative, I think have been so invaluable to me thus far. And I look forward to doing more of that in the future for sure. If you made it this far in the video, I really encourage you, find your thing. It doesn't have to be like everyone else's thing. Make time for it. Prioritize pockets in your week. I also think what stops a lot of people is that they have this idea that it has to be perfect in their head. It's really not about being perfect. It's about embracing that playful, creative energy that makes us feel the joy that we deserve to feel, right? It's our birthright, and also makes the craziness of this world a little bit more bearable. Those are all of my low-cost self-care and productivity habits I have to share with you. If you like these tips, then you'll also probably want to check out the video where I share more about how I go about building a self-care routine that I actually love and come back to time and time again. I also break down the soft systems that I use to help me with this and make self-care feel less more like a chore and a to-do list and more of something that's easy and sustainable and actually works with my schedule. So check that out next. And if you like this video, you like what I have to say, feel free to subscribe and hit the like button, the notification bell, and you'll be notified when a new video drops. Thanks for hanging out today with me. This is a sign to go out and live your best creative and most enjoyable life. I will see you very soon, and don't forget to stay mindful. Bye.